Hello, beautiful Jasiri lovers. We're back to bring you the big conversations, the trending stories, and of course, the hottest gist. Have you seen the news lately? There's so much happening around the world. It's worrisome and it's a bit daunting to see how events are unfolding globally. I mean, we're grateful to be alive, but it's such an intense time to be alive.
Absolutely, absolutely. We're in a time of significant transformation. We are in a time of significant transformation globally where we're witnessing widespread unrest across various countries, each movement driven by unique causes and dynamics but united by a common thread, the demand for better governance, transparency and accountability.
That's right. These protests are a reflection of the growing impatience and the frustration among citizens, worldwide that is, there's so much going on worldwide. The government's inability to address concerns effectively from the UK to Nigeria to Kenya, Bangladesh and Venezuela. Protests are reshaping the political and social fabric of nations. So let's take a closer look at these different protests.
All right, while we wait for the visuals to come up, I think that we're used to, for a long time, we've been used to, protests in Africa, and not just protests, protests, coups, wars, having a domino effect in the sense that one country starts a coup, it has like a ripple effect on other countries, but this is quite different because it's looking like, the UK, Bangladesh, and the UK, for example, is having, I think this is the biggest unrest in a decade.
Yeah. Yes, about. Yeah, I think the last really major riots were in
I think the end of the world is coming.
Okay, you have spiritual problems and spiritual theories.
I think we are approaching the end of the world. God is just tired of us. I mean, we're talking about it in the makeup room. How many billion people are we in the world? 8 billion.
About 8 billion?
Yeah.
Is it not enough?
So you feel like the end of the world depends on how populated the earth is?
I used to hear the term world peace for the longest of time. World peace, oh may there be world peace. Artists have even sung it, world peace. How achievable is that? I'm taking a cue from what Blessing said with the domino effect. This is like a wave sweeping across countries, across continents even. So what are we talking about?
But I think that the fact that, we've been clamoring for world peace for the longest time is a pointer to the fact that there's always been war.
There has been. And the thing is, peace is relative, I think. I think peace is relative in the sense that it means different things to different people.
Well, but I don't think it means dying for some people.
But here's the thing, it depends on what you're... for people that come from a certain religion, there are certain perks and, I suppose, blessings that you get from living a life of martyrdom, if you would.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. So for them, peace is not the same thing as you, for instance. So it is relative.
In other words, what you're saying is that blood has to be shed.
I'm saying that...
You know me, I go to the street. You're saying it so nicely.
No, I'm saying that human beings, we are varied, we are complex, we are layered. And I feel like the major issue that causes unrest or war is the fact that we're not tolerant of our differences. The one thing we are different.
This is not how you used to talk before.
No, but I think I understand.
You see what I'm saying?
No, we understand what she's saying. That's why I'm saying it is street balance.
But okay, let's quickly take a look at what's happening in the UK. Now, far-right activists recently held an Enough is Enough protest, which have been large. And by the way, this is the second time I'm hearing Enough is Enough. The first time I heard it was a heavy crackdown on immigration in the UK. Yeah. Now, this protest has been large, and in some instances, it's been also very unruly. Now, the protest was sparked by the tragic deaths of 3 girls, which led to an anti-immigration narrative, particularly targeting Muslim immigrants and people of color. A large crowd of anti-Muslim protesters clashed with police in a northern English town following the attack, which occurred at a Taylor Swift-themed event. Now, the stabbing incident shocked the nation. Police have confirmed that it was not linked to terrorism and that the suspect was, in fact, born in the UK.
People have been saying enough is enough. They want people... So here's the thing. I find it ironic that the English are telling people to go back home when their modus operandi, if that's the way to say it, was colonizing. Like, you go to other people's homes and own them. who is actually like the original British person or original English person at this stage? Because you took people away from their homes, brought them over to your land, and now you're telling and made them work to build your land, and then you're saying now this is not your home. So where is their home?
And it's even funny because, I mean, the killing of those girls was tragic, yes. I mean, obviously. But it's looking like a different narrative. I don't know if the intent to crack down heavily on immigrants is what's messing with the minds of the citizens now, because now they're looking at it as an immigration conflict, like a battle against immigrants, so much so that they went to an hotel that housed asylum seekers, and they really set fire to the place. Yeah. And we don't even have, I mean, it's still based on speculation, but it's looking like 90% the person who even orchestrated that was a UK citizen.
Yes.
Most times, this has been a long time coming, and then most times the torchlight is on Britons or nationals of that country of a foreign descent. Like, you know, people who come from Africa and the world who come there to settle, like you say, colonized. They moved there forcefully, but they've lived there. They weren't even born there because their parents and their descendants moved from the original home there. So there's been this silent, it's been a silent wave and has been sweeping across Europe starting. It's not new in America. I don't really know about Canada and the situation as of now. But in the UK, there has just been a steady wave of that, silently, but now it's growing. And anything that's untoward or something that is not in good standing that happens in Europe and its environs, they're looking at the immigrants. Whether we like it, they still call them immigrants, in as much as you probably are a citizen there, you're a national, but you are called an immigrant. So most of the things that happen there, theft, burglary, stabbing, murder, the torchlight first goes on the citizens of foreign descent.
You know, speaking about unrest, we are aware of the significant unrest in Kenya. Citizens, they rallied against President William Ruto's proposed finance bill, which introduces new taxes that many fear will exacerbate financial burdens, especially for low and middle income earners. Now, another country that is having a lot of problems. I mean, if you look at the screens now, you can see what's happening in Kenya. But in Bangladesh, anti-government protests against Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina have intensified, with protesters accusing her administration of oh my goodness, wow. That's a mouthful. Authoritarianism, corruption, and human rights abuses. Economic issues like inflation and unemployment have further frustrated public into a state of anger.
That's what we say when we say that people are tired globally. Take a look at now in Venezuela. Citizens are protesting against Nicolás Maduro's government. They're citing widespread corruption, human rights abuses, and a deteriorating economy. The hyperinflation and the food shortages and medicine have left many desperate and angry. That's across the world. Now let's bring it back home to Nigeria. The hashtag End Bad Governance in Nigeria protests continue to highlight the widespread discontent with President Bola Tinubu's government. Protesters are demanding accountability, they're demanding transparency and significant reforms to tackle corruption, inflation, and the high cost of living.
Yes. Well, it's quite clear that people around the world are no longer willing to tolerate ineffective leadership. They're standing up and making their voices heard. And while the causes of these protests are unique to each country, the underlying desire for positive change is universal. In Catherine's words, people are tired, no? People are getting tired, no?
Yes.
Stop it.
That's how she sounds.
So you know what? I want to. So when Catherine gets angry, we know that she's going to switch to another language.
Today I'm not gonna get angry today because I see that we are not all. You see why I'm not angry, because it's not only Nigeria. We are not all. No, all of us are not all right in the world.
Listen, you know what? In Kenya, we've been talking about the Kenyan unrest, I think, for a few weeks. It's been going on for about a month or so now. And I feel like people don't understand exactly what this financial bill was. It's like, oh, they're rioting in Kenya, but why are they rioting? And there's a bit of hope or light at the end of this tunnel. Let me tell you. So I think this piece of legislation was passed how many months ago?
Well, a couple months ago.
It was, a few months ago, and it was essentially trying to raise the taxes by about 16%. Yeah, 16%. That's huge. That's a huge increase. Anyways, things like data, fuel, I think bank transfers, even diapers were going to be taxed. And the people were like, no, we're not going to have this, because the government was trying to, I suppose, fund debt and some, they say, public development projects. They were trying to raise about 346 billion Kenyan shillings, which is about $2.7 billion. And they were trying to put that burden on the people. So it started as we are not going to accept this bill. We're fighting against this finance bill. And everyone was, but as things progressed and the government sort of cracked down on the protesters, they fought back and said, you know what, this is not even about the bill. This is about the government. We want all of you gone. And so I feel like protests do have power. Not people have power.
Yeah, but
people with a common cause have power. The Bangladesh Prime Minister, she fled. Listen, she resigned. She didn't just flee her palace. She fled the country.
So this is the thing. You see, when we talk about that, I was even talking about on the streets, like with some people, and she said, what are they doing that's different from what we're doing? What are they doing? Because it's protest now, protest equal. Let's do the math. Protest equals protest. There's protest here, protest. If you're doing simultaneous equation, if you know, you know. You know, so you're saying you're eradicating something and you're putting something together. If you're taking a formula that works some way, it's supposed to be a universal formula. You bring it with the same equations, with the same characteristics. What is it that differs, that has made it work in Bangladesh, for example, in Kenya, when the Kenyans say, okay, you know what, we're not even doing again. We don't want all of you. What is it that we, as a people here in Niger, are doing wrong? Annie, let's go for a break, please.
We're gonna
I saw the twinkle in Annie's eye, almost like saying, no, don't answer that.
To answer that question when we come back. We'll be going on a short break now, and when we return, we will be focusing on the specifics of the end-bad governance protest in Nigeria. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to Jasiri. Jasiri is streaming live on our social media platforms. That's at News Central TV. Use the hashtag Jasiri to be part of the conversations that we're having. And today the conversation is about the hashtag End Bad Governance in Nigeria movement. This, which has highlighted the frustration many Nigerians feel with the current state of governance. President Bola Tinubu's government is under intense scrutiny as demands for accountability, transparency, and significant reforms grow louder, especially among the youth and civil society groups. And his recent address on August 4th has been heavily criticized for not adequately addressing these demands, leaving many feeling more frustrated and angry. So joining us today to delve into these issues deeper is a remarkable guest, a dedicated human rights activist, Adeyinka. Welcome to Jasiri.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you.
For joining
Nice
us.
to be here. Thank you.
How are you?
Fine.
No, how are you? Really?
Okay. The average, I think I'm not surprised at the turnout. I'm not surprised at the method at which the government is responding. But as a Nigerian, am I fine? No, not.
So, I'm sorry, Dabira. We understand that this protest was supposed to last longer than this, and there was supposed to be a massive turnout of people. And it started off somewhat looking like that, but now you can hardly even tell. You did mention off air that the protests are still on.
Yeah.
We're shocked to hear that because we're not seeing anybody on the street. Is there a reason? Is it because of the message of the president urging people to not protest, or is there an underlying reason?
There are a lot of underlying tones that are not visible to the eyes of the people. Okay, so before the protest, there was already a show of force, okay, that was displayed to scare people away, you know, to scare them out from coming out to protest. Okay, so the day one was literally, you know, encouraging. Day two was okay. Day three, you know, I think on the day four was when we had the press statements from the presidency. And already the armed forces, the police, they were already broadcasting that the protest has been called off which was not true. It wasn't called off. We wanted to listen to see if these demands will be addressed or should be, let me not say if, to ensure that demands were addressed at least by 50%, which didn't happen. And I think that statement that the president gave was he intentionally avoided those demands. So it will look like it wasn't even, we weren't talking. It will look like we don't matter. That was what really happened. So it scared people, like people were hearing from, you know, the police angle that the protest has been called off. Even up until yesterday, we had protests. But today we felt, okay, we are going to be joining our brothers and sisters outside of Nigeria that are still protesting to encourage them, because this is not a one-man show. It is not organized by anybody. It is a protest that hunger called for, not anybody organizing the protest. So a lot of things are really going on the background. A lot of people are adopted. A lot of people have been threatened. I have also been threatened. My phone has been hacked. I can't access, you know, some functions on my phone anymore. I got calls. I got hidden calls like 50 times. Yes, I put that on record. So a lot of things are going on. But yeah, we are not relenting. We are still protesting. We are going to be protesting until these demands are considered. Let me put it that way. We're not saying 100% do everything, but the basic ones, like the hike in fuel price, I mean, it should come back to 100.
I was going to ask you, sorry to interrupt you. I was going to ask you, at the top of the demands, what do you think is the most pressing demand that protesters are addressing, or that protesters need the government to address?
I think the number one for me is the hike in price. It should come, for fuel.
Okay, for fuel.
Right.
Yeah, the hike in price should come back to 165 naira that we used to buy before. Say reasonably 200 naira. I mean, that will control every other hike in price. You know, because the transportation determines it will come down, and then people will be able to move on. And then I think also the electricity tariff, that is way on the high side. It's way on the high side. Assuming before now I used to pay like 60K, 50K for electricity, but now I pay like 300,000 naira. It's absurd. Like, where is my revenue coming from? You know, for people that are even into production or small scale business persons, how do they cope with this? And then the economy is literally down. Nobody is patronizing anyone. There's hunger in the land. Everything is, you know, the inflation is affecting literally everything. And then the third one, I think for me, is also that the government will also look into creating job opportunity, not this long-term thing. They're going to allocate farms to states, and then they will start growing things and all that. There are a lot of things.
But something on the shortest scale.
Something on the shortest lane that would take these youth off the streets. You cannot not have an avenue to give them a job, and you expect them not to come outside to protest. We have a lot of graduates that are not working. And when they say they are giving this, what do you call it, this relief, student loans, this food incentives and all that, it doesn't work. If you're not a party person, you can't even access all these things. We hear they give people rice, they give people, that is not what we want. We are not refugees in Nigeria. We are citizens. So whatever is going should go across, and it should be well managed, not something that is managed under a political party where they will ask you, are you a member of this party? We've seen that going on. We've seen that going on.
All right.
You know, we've talked a lot about protests, and there was a very popular, infamous protest a few years ago, the NSAS protest. How do you feel like that protest differs from this one? Brutal.
I'm going to be giving a little bit of clue about this protest. A little bit of clue. This is not even the main protest.
Is that right?
Yes. This is just a test, a testing ground.
Oh, I see.
Yes. This is not the main protest is going to load, and it's going to happen.
So I'm sorry to interrupt, but a lot of people feel like we're being unserious. We're announcing protest as though it's a naming ceremony that we just want people to come.
I agree.
Because we're announcing it and we're rubbing it in so much, there's a lot of eyes, you know, security agents are like, okay, where are you guys protesting? This one. So it's like, we're not serious. And I want us to, like, very quickly compare this to the NSAS protest. Now, I know that you were actively involved.
Yeah.
In fact, you, alongside the likes of DJ Switch,
yeah.
won the court injunction
Yes,
against
yes.
the government, which is a big deal. But if you look at that protest, it wasn't exactly, oh, we're protesting so day, we're protesting so day. People came out in numbers and they were angry and they wanted answers.
Okay, so let me give you a clue, like I said. NSAS wasn't announced. The main protest will not be announced. People are going to come out. Now, we did this because after NSAS, we literally almost were shut down. Our voices were taken from us. Yeah. So we were coming out to say we're having a 10-day protest to let the government know that we have taken back our voices. Yeah. And we're also sending a message to the masses that, look, you know, protest is your fundamental right. You have the right to protest. So this is to build up like that confidence to tell people that it is your right. It is not a crime for you to come and say, look, this government is not working for us, the masses. Yeah. This is a democratic world, not a military regime where you don't have a right to express. You voted the people. It's supposed to be a government for the people, of the people, elected by the people, to do good by the people. Yeah. But it's not happening like that. So that's why I said this is even not the mother of the protest yet. Wow. This is just for people to know that, look, it is your right. It is when you don't understand your right and you don't know your place. That is when you think, oh, if I go out, I will be harmed, I'll be affected. No, you won't be affected. Yes, we won the court case against the government and all that. So we also know that they will be very adamant. Yeah. It will be difficult for them to even, you know, apply that court injunction. It will be very difficult for them. We won the injunction at the panel. Till date, they've not applied it. They said it's a white paper and all that and all that. I was expecting that this present government would do good by correcting what the past government do, because they are still the same party.
Yes.
So, but they think, I think they think that people don't really matter. That is the problem we have here. And this is not supposed to be a government that thinks that it can run a state and apply that kind of method to running Nigeria. No, to running a country. It doesn't work like that. I would hope that, I would hope that they are listening. I would hope that they would at least, because I know power, you know, this power thing.
Considering.
Yes. I would at least think that they will be considerate to say, okay, let us sit back. What are the things that we can do to cushion the effect of this hunger in the land? Yeah. Because the people are hungry. I am hungry as well.
Yeah.
All right, so let me ask you, sorry, Ali, let me quickly ask you, what is your assessment of Nigerians' response to the protest, this protest?
It was poor. It was poor. But protest is not about the 1 million people coming out. Protest is about the just me.
No, but you also know that the Igbos haven't been dominant in this protest.
Not at all. In fact, they've been very silent.
Exactly. Yeah. And in the north, these guys have carried the passion and their
many other things
to another level. Okay. And then the southwest, of course, there's the anti-protest.
Yeah, so for me, I would say it is everybody's protesting one way or the other. The Igbos at the south region, they are doing sit at home. It's also a protest. It's a way of protest.
Okay. They've been doing that for a while.
Yes, they are gradually cutting off from the system. When the country is no longer generating the revenue that is supposed to be generating from this particular region, then something is wrong. They are also protesting. It's just that their way of protesting is different from what we are saying in the West.
Do we then need, this is as an aside, do we then need for all of us to have the same type of protest?
No. Our intentions may be same, that the government is not working for the people. But the dimension at which I want to protest, and the Southwest, and the Northerners, the dimension at which they want to protest may be different from mine.
Okay. All right, we will be back with our wonderful guest, Dabira. Jasiri is going to take a short break now. Stay with us.
All right, thanks for staying with us on Jasiri. And we're still talking about the hashtag End Bad Governance protest that is supposed to still be going on and still budding. And unfortunately, we're not hearing much about it. And we have our guest in the house, a human rights activist, Adeyinka, who is trying to help us understand, the way things are going. Dabira is one of the people at the forefront of the protest. And I want to ask a question that has been of great concern for me. We've talked about people knowing their rights, youth coming out, in their volume and understanding what the Constitution says and all that. But a lot of people would ask you, have you ever heard the government quote Constitution? They control the narrative, basically. And that's the sad truth, because we've heard, the other day we sat here and one of the lawyers who was on the protest ground was saying things like, the people have the right to, I can't remember the phrase he used, but something about, a constitutional disobedience, just paraphrasing. Yeah. And then I was asking a question that if they pick someone up now and say, I would arrest you and there's nothing you would do, there's literally nothing we would do, because the Constitution in this country is now so flawed. Yeah. I'll use an example. Yesterday, I think, we had one of our correspondents in Abuja. We had the visuals where there was no protest going on, and there were police vans everywhere. They had literally stopped the protest, ordered everyone to go home, no more protest. And in my mind, I'm like, is that right? Like, that is constitutionally not allowed. Now, this morning, we're getting information as well, again, that the police are currently prohibiting protesters because they're calling this act treason. And some people have been arrested and investigations are ongoing because you came out to lend your voice and say that you are tired. Yeah. So I think that's one battle that we're having to fight here. Yeah. In other places, yes, the Constitution is respected. People quote Constitution because they know that it's upheld. It's just like saying you're holding up the flag and they're still shooting at you. Yeah. I mean, that happened. So it's like you're quoting the Constitution and they're like, get away with your Constitution. Nobody respects the Constitution.
So let's be very, very clear. The Constitution does not affect the government. The government, I think this Nigerian present government, are above the law. The people, the citizens, are meant to be ruled by the Constitution, but it doesn't affect the people in government.
All right, Dabiri, apologies. I spoke about what's going on in Abuja, and we now have our correspondent there, Amadine Oye in Abuja, who would, tell us what's going on, and we can get we can feel the pulse of the people in Abuja. Amadine, good morning.
Good morning.
All right, very quickly, can you bring us up to speed on what's going on in Abuja? We hear that the security officials are now cracking down on people and even arresting people and calling it an act of treason. What's the update?
Okay, from the information yesterday, the spokespersons of security agencies, they spoke to the media, and they did not explicitly say that those who were coming out to protest, they were conducting treasonable exercises. What they said was that citizens carrying Russian flags and calling for the Russian government to take over the current government is a treasonable offense. Let's get that very clear. But what we have done this morning is that we have gone around several flashpoints yesterday, areas where the police had confrontations with would-be protesters, and we have realized that there's a certain level of calm. I'm standing actually at the border community between the federal capital and Nasarawa State. If you look behind me, you see that pillar there telling you, welcome to Nasarawa State. But this exact location was actually where, on the first day of the protest, security agencies or security operatives had a confrontation with would-be protesters. I would not like to classify them protesters, because at this very area, this very location, they were attacking passers-by, snatching phones, collecting handbags, and then there's a plaza here. If you see this plaza, some of them had made their way into the plaza and break shops to cut away goods belonging to shop owners. At this very point, there's a high presence of security operatives. Look behind me, there are several checks ongoing. At the other side of the road, their vans are parked. So their presence is very, very heavy here. So right now, because of their presence, this area is experiencing a certain level of calm.
All right, Amadine, thank you for that clarification, and thanks for giving us the update on what's going on in Abuja and, of course, in Nasarawa State as well. I think that I'm going to come back to Dabira. Regarding the Russian flag, I mean, I understand that, people are basically very tired of the government. But that's more like a symbolism of a geopolitical shift, and that's a bit of a reach.
Yeah.
What's your take on that?
That took us all by surprise. We weren't expecting anything of such. I am not in support of that because we still have a government. We are not saying we want the government to leave office or we want Tinubu to go. We are saying we want bad government eradicated to stop. I mean, consider the people. That's what we are saying. So me seeing that flag, I'm like, no, this is another game entirely coming in. And that is why we also had to retreat. Okay, to now review exactly where are we going. I mean, do people really understand the direction? But these things could have been avoided. The government had over 1 month notice that there was going to be a protest. And we had our what do you call it now? We had our agenda written out. They saw it. They could have, managed this situation if they were listening and say, okay, this we will do. This we can implement at the immediate, but we can do this. Nobody will come out to protest. So in a country where there's no good management, and I think the government lacks the people, advisors, literally. They are just people in the corridors of power that were, I think they were hungry for power, and they got it, and they were drunk by it. So this would have been avoided. This thing with Russian thing is an undertone of another agenda that we don't know anything about. And I'm not in support of that. We're not in party to that.
And it's quite ironic that they're asking to end bad governance and they're raising a Russian flag.
And the tailor is there. There's a tailor there.
There's a tailor there sewing, and I've sat down on spaces where I see the Northerners coming to say, look, everywhere now you guys need to raise a Russian flag, and I'm like,
no, that's not what
how does that work?
Talking about.
So, but that's where the problem is, because some people would say that the government does not take protests in Nigeria seriously because they tend to be faceless. Now, that has its perks, but at the same time, they feel there's just this thought that once there's a protest and it's faceless, there are going to be hoodlums vandalizing and people taking advantage. And if you notice in the president's speech, that's what he was just, hammering on. People have taken over the protest to cause havoc and things like that. But it's like he's watering down the effort of actual protest. So is it to the disadvantage of the protesters who are actually fighting for a common goal?
No. We are focused. I tell people when I go on space, I'm like, all these other undertone miscreants, other narrative should not be our focus. Even in the UK today, they are protesting.
Yes.
And I see whites boggling shops.
Yes.
Okay? I see people vandalizing people's property. Whites. Those are the people that colonize us, right?
Yes.
So that is bound to happen in protests. That is not our business. Other people will come with their own agenda. In fact, some of these hoodlums were people that were empowered, that were employed by the people in government just to infiltrate and give us a bad face.
Yes.
It is also diplomatic on their hand. And it is okay for them to come out and say protesters are, boggling shops, they are doing this. Those are not protesters. They okay, in Ojota, for instance, we saw where the hoodlums were attacking protesters. They were caught on camera, and the police were standing, and they didn't do nothing about it.
Of course, same thing happened.
So you should understand where we are. We are in the hands of politicians that are just taking pleasure in making us look like we are stupid. But I have just come here to say this morning, the protest has not even really started.
Dabira, you've talked about the protesters versus the government, the president's speech, the government not listening to us. All right, so the government says, we're ready to dialogue. We want you people to come. Let's talk. Okay, that seems like some sort of progress. Who do you, this is a faceless protest, like we've said. So if the government is saying, come, let's talk, who would be the representatives that will man this dialogue? And what are the things that would be said? Or are the people behind the protest, which, we've said it's not any particular body or anything like that, it's Nigerians. Are we saying, you know what, we're tired of the games you people play, we're just going to hold off until you actually take us seriously and we make some sort of difference in this country?
Okay, so this calling the frontliners for dialogue, you can see when NLC when they go for dialogue and they come out, the story is always changing.
Yes.
We don't want dialogue, we don't want a closed-door meeting. If you want to dialogue, just come on. Just come on national TV. Don't just address the people. Come up with, a short-term solution at least. So we will know that you are taking us seriously. Like, who are the people you want to... There are a lot of NSAS frontliners. I don't want to go there.
Yeah. No, but, I'm thinking, now that you say that, I'm thinking if the government, the protesters need to volunteer, who wants to, if we're given a chance, because we've said it so many times, given on this table, given a chance to have let's talk. This thing you say, okay, people, what do you want? What do you need? I hear your 100-point agenda, but let us sit down and tell me exactly what you want as a people. Who can? It doesn't have to be in entertainment or anything sphere. Anywhere, we're all Nigerians.
Okay.
Who can we say, okay, these 5 people, or this person can go and speak for us? And I hear what you say when you say, we've heard people, the NLC, they go in for closed door meetings, and when they come out, they sing a different song. Okay. But if we say, okay, now, bring 10 people that can articulate what Nigerians really want. Okay. Are we able to do that?
I think that is also possible. We are not going to be straight headlong to say, okay, let's have a state town hall meeting. Let all the governors, the president has referred us to our governors to go and hold them accountable. Yes. Let's have all the governors organize a town hall meeting where we have frontliners of each state and the masses attend that town hall meeting, like a conference. And then let every state, let it be a uniform date. Yes. So that you will take us off the street. Yes. And then we'll take our demand to our governor. Then our governors take our demands to the presidency. Yeah. And then let there be an implementation between now and 14 days. Nobody will be on the street. It's simple. So don't call us to Abuja for a closed door.
My thing is, we tend to talk about our demands a lot. We talk about the protests. We talk about what has been happening. But most times we get so carried away in the moment that we don't see whether or not there's a possibility of having these demands actually met. Because that's one thing, like we talk and talk and talk, okay, closed door meeting, open the door, we don't want to close the door anymore, let's just have a meeting. And what is the possibility that, aside just hearing the concerns, the government will actually do something about it? Is it possible that the price of fuel will come down to the 200 that were? Are they willing? That's another thing.
No, we will force them. They don't have to be willing. We will force them. We will keep coming out. We will keep protesting. See, this protest gets to them whether we like it or not. It's just that.
But are Nigerians willing to sacrifice all? No. Because when you say protest, we're not a people who usually sit down in one place because we're used to being on the move. Business owners are just, everybody... that's what I'm saying. Is it something we can't
please hold that thought. Don't forget the question. But we have a break. We'll go very quickly on this short break. And when we come back, she's definitely going to give answers to that question. It's still Jasiri. Stay with us.
Welcome back to Jasiri. We are streaming live on all our social media platforms at News Central TV. We've been having a very riveting discussion with our guest activist, Dabira. Welcome and well done, I'm sorry, for all the amazing insight you've given us. There's a bunch of questions across the table, but I think one of the major questions that Nigerians have, and we want to know, is, in fact, I think you just asked this now, so I'm just going to repeat it on air. Are people afraid that if we come out, there isn't anyone who is going to be responsible for us? Because there's a question of safety. There's a question of, I don't want to go to prison and then be forgotten there, like it happened with NSAS. There are people who are still incarcerated. So who is the person, or who are the people, or what is the body that will be responsible for the security of Nigerians?
Nigerians, when they come out for protest,
when they come out to protest.
Okay, so here is the thing. We can't outrightly say there are no organizers. There are organizers. Because if there are no organizers, the protest will be porous. And then we'll have a lot of elements that are not part of the genuine agenda of why we are out there. Their bodies, and even the government can see these faces. They know these faces. they are not organizers because there's no money put in to set this up. It is a weird thing. Like, nobody feeds you. Nobody gave you money to go and, you know, we are not frustrating this government. They should get it. They know it. They understand it. They are just shying away from that fact and that truth. They just want to remain in that office where nobody questions them until after 4 years, and they are good and they can rerun again and come back. And it's just an oppressive government as far as I'm concerned. These things can be managed. You have seen people managing the protest ground, the front. They are the front liners, okay? Yes. Let us have a state town hall meeting with all our governors. Like, okay, fix a date. Let Nigerians also be part of those meetings. Say, give us a hall that can take 3,000-4,000 Nigerians at each state level. Now, these are our demands. Which ones can be the short-term ones that can be attended to, like the fuel price thing and the electricity tariff thing? Those two things should be addressed immediately. The people that have been in custody since NSAS should be released. Okay, those are the agitations that we are having. Now we'll keep coming out if these things are not resolved, because I'm not going to still go to the market and buy the bread I used to buy for 500 for 2,000 naira again. Okay, so this has to be, so the people too, if they see that people are taking responsibilities, they will be confident and rest assured enough that, look, even if they get arrested, they will be released. I was arrested when they wanted to reopen Lekki toll gate. Myself, Macaroni and all were locked in the Black Maria and all that, that they wouldn't reopen the toll gate. Some people stood in and said, okay, they were advocating for us while we were, you know, in custody. And we came out that day. About, I think, over 50 of us were arrested. And we came out that day. So these things can actually be managed. We also have a responsibility. We have a role to play. The government has a larger role to play. Okay?
All right. So you speak very passionately, and I can't help but wonder, on a personal level, I wouldn't say what's in it for you, because it sounds really cheesy. But what are you hoping for? What are you hoping for? What is that thing that keeps the fire burning? And what do you want to see from this government? Okay,
the only thing that keeps the fire burning for me is the fact that there are a lot of people that can't express. And so I am a voice for that, a lot of thousands of people that are so scared to come out to express. Two, I think my hope in my country, Nigeria, was dashed on the 20th of October when a gun was pointed directly at me. And I was one of the targets. And a guy took a bullet for me. And his last words were, don't fail us. We want a country that will work for our generations yet unborn. And so that has been my standpoint. Have I been called? Have we attended meetings to compromise? Yes. But for me, I think I have a slogan to say, to die for a just cause is freedom, than to stay under an oppressive government in the hope that I'm enjoying whatever it is that I'm getting, benefit I'm getting at the immediate. It doesn't work like that. So I pray that this government, I wasn't expecting anything good. I'm not disappointed. Yes, I'm not disappointed, because I said it before then. I had a few meetings with some people. I was a state chairman of a particular party, and I knew what went wrong. They told us to join politics, right? They said, oh, you guys have been protesting, come and join politics so that you can make your voice count and your, you know, and we joined. It was a shamble. It was a makeup. It was a farce. Thank you. And I had to resign willingly. People were like, you shouldn't have resigned. There's a lot of money in it. And I'm like, no, it's not about the money for me. It's about the fact that I want to travel out of the shores of this country and say I'm a Nigerian because my country is working, and I don't intend to leave the country. And still, I don't intend to leave this country.
Okay, Dabira, very quickly, I want to ask one final question. I mean, and I want to get your standpoint on this now. We've talked about how we want change, how it's possible to have a reduction in fuel price, a reduction in the cost of electricity and even food. If you look at what happened in Kenya, for example, the government conceded, not because they were scared, but also because they had alternative means. And the president clearly stated that, okay, you guys don't want this, and I understand, so we're going to go with alternative means. And then he listed the things that they would do to raise the money for debt servicing. Now, coming to Nigeria, we know that, you know, there are a lot of things that should be, a lot of costs that should be cut down, you know, to be able to service our debts. But at the same time, we see a lot of mismanagement from the hands of the government. So do you think that as long as there is greed in the hearts of these people that are leading us, they would ever concede?
They will be forced to concede. We will get to that place. When you push the people too much, and you push them to the wall, enough, and there's no push point anymore. They'll push back.
And do you think we have enough alternative means to raise money?
Absolutely.
To manage the country? Yes, of course.
Absolutely.
They should cut down on all this extravagant expenditure that they allocate to themselves without being accountable, without even considering that the people, do you know we are the one generating the revenue that these guys are using to live this extravagant kind of lifestyle they are living? Because there's nothing we are producing in Nigeria that is generating revenue for us. We are the one paying the tax. We are the taxpayers. So they should be answerable to us. And at least they should start with even cutting down their salaries by 50%.
Dabira, in this conversation, I've enjoyed it personally, and I know my ladies have as well. But Dabiraoluwa, Adeyinka, thank you so much for joining us on the show. We've had such an insightful conversation today, and we hope that's all the time we have actually on today's episode of Jasiri. We are going. Good night. Goodbye. See you tomorrow. Won't stop it. See you tomorrow.